Have you ever snapped at a friend, a sibling, or even a stranger, then spent the entire night replaying the moment in your mind, wishing you had stayed calm instead? That sinking feeling is not just regret, it is a signal that in the heat of the moment, your mind grabbed the first emotion it found and hurled it back into the world without a second of reflection. We do this every day. A sarcastic comment beneath a post, a sharp horn blast in traffic, a rushed reply to a late-night text. Each impulse feels harmless, yet together they steer the reputation, peace, and opportunities we carry into tomorrow. Niccolo Machiavelli watched princes who lost cities for the very same weakness. He noted that a leader unable to govern his own face would soon fail to govern anything at all. His words sound distant, wrapped in velvet robes and candlelit halls, yet the same drama now unfolds on glowing screens. A stranger provokes, you fire back, and a phone no larger than your hand becomes the battlefield where you surrender focus and time. They gain leverage, you leak energy, and the habit cements itself until reacting feels normal, even expected. The cost remains invisible because it is paid in small pieces of attention scattered across the day. The remedy begins with a new view of emotion. Feeling anger, shock, or disappointment is not weakness. Emotion is raw information, neutral, like numbers on a map. A reaction happens when the mind mistakes that flash of data for an order to act. A response happens when you carve a deliberate pause, however small, before you move. That pause can be as brief as one measured breath. In that space, chaos turns into coordinates you can read. What looked like an insult becomes a clue. What sounded like noise reveals a pattern, and you step from pawn to player without uttering a single extra word. Building that pause sounds too simple, which is why most people dismiss it before they even try. The modern world celebrates speed, yet true authority hides in quiet timing. Training yourself to wait one breath rewires the loop between stimulus and action, giving judgment space to speak before emotion seizes the microphone. Test it today. Let a message sit unopened for 15 seconds, and notice how the urgency fades. That experiment reveals a door you missed. Behind it lies a mind that chooses its own temperature instead of matching the weather around it. A mind capable of steering any moment toward a horizon. When you see who trained you to jump first and think later, you can break the habit at its root. Think back to the first time a teacher smiled because you blurted an answer before anyone else even lifted a hand. That small surge of approval felt like sunlight, and your young mind stored the lesson: speed equals praise, hesitation equals silence. From then on, quick reactions became a shortcut to belonging. Parents echoed the rule when they scolded you for pausing too long. Friends reinforced it by laughing at whoever froze during a game. Bit by bit, the habit deepened until instant response felt like a sign of intelligence rather than a reflex set by others. The pattern followed you into phones and feeds. Messages ping, notifications flash, and every alert carries an invisible timer daring you to answer now. If you wait, you feel late, irrelevant, behind the curve. Companies designed this urgency because a mind that moves without pause is easy to steer. Each swipe and reply may look harmless, yet together they train the nervous system to treat every signal as an order. The more you obey, the louder the signals grow. Machiavelli studied the same dynamic in courtiers who crowded his city hall. He noticed that those who answered at once revealed their motives before they understood the room. The patient few gathered information, then spoke only when the moment served their interest. While the crowd mocked their quiet, they quietly collected leverage. Power often arrives disguised as delay, not laziness, not avoidance, but measured timing that lets emotion cool and reason walk forward. Modern life rarely rewards that timing on the surface. The fastest comment climbs to the top. The loudest headline wins the click. The earliest bid seals the deal. Yet beneath the noise, an older rule still holds. The mind that waits to choose its next move shapes the board for everyone else. Reaction feels lively, but it burns attention like dry wood. Response feels still, yet feeds on observation and turns each fact into fuel. Try a single experiment today. Before you tap send, let your lungs fill and empty once. Watch how the words you almost fired off shift in tone, or even vanish. Notice how urgency shrinks when it is not fed in the first second. That small gap reveals more than silence. It shows you the difference between acting from habit and acting from command. The moment you choose deliberation over the automatic tug of urgency, you reclaim the lever that has guided you since childhood. Picture a chess clock, ticking above every conversation you enter. Each word you speak flips the timer to the other side. Most people burn their time without thought, rushing to fill silence because silence feels like defeat. Yet silence is where vision hides. When you slow your clock for even a breath, you force the other side to spend theirs searching for your position. In that pause, you gather clues, the tremor in a voice, the quick dart of eyes toward a door, the shallow breath of someone guarding a secret. These micro details carry more truth than any sentence. Reaction misses them because it slams the button too soon. The body feels the pause first. Heartbeat eases. Muscles loosen around the jaw. Shoulders settle. Biology shifts from alarm to observation. That change is subtle, yet the mind reads it like a green light to open new tabs of thought. Questions surface. What does this person really want? Why did they mention that detail twice? Which facts have gone unsaid? The space gives memory a chance to supply patterns from the past. A calm mind stitches those patterns into insight before speaking. A reacting mind speaks first and hopes insight arrives later. Machiavelli advised focusing on ends rather than impulses. Modern psychology echoes him. Studies show that naming an emotion moves it from the limbic system toward the prefrontal cortex, where planning lives. Label the surge, lower its heat, and leverage the energy into choice. 3 quiet steps. Label, lower, leverage. You can run them in 5 seconds if the habit is trained. At first, they feel mechanical, like shifting gears in an old car. Soon, they become fluid, matching breath to thought. Try it in a small conflict. Someone throws a casual insult, masked as a joke. Instead of chuckling or snapping back, inhale slow. Inside that breath, name the spark irritation. Feel its temperature drop as the label turns noise into data. Exhale while deciding whether the moment calls for a question, a raised eyebrow, or no reply at all. By the time you speak, you are guiding the exchange rather than following it. Most people never notice this pivot, yet they feel it. They sense authority in the calm tone and start to adjust their own rhythm in response. The scene shifts without force or volume, proving that the quietest move often steers the entire board. Consider what happens when you hold a mirror under bright sunlight. The mirror creates no light of its own, yet it redirects the beam with precision sharp enough to burn paper. The same principle applies in conversation. Instead of absorbing a sharp remark and flinging back your own heat, you let the words land, reflect them in calm language, and watch how the original sender now faces their own glare. A colleague says, "Your idea is naive." You answer, "Sounds like you have a different angle. What concerns you most?" The mirror returns the emotion for them to inspect while you stay untouched and curious. This tactic works because people expect 2 basic scripts, attack or retreat. Reflection is a third script, unfamiliar yet disarming. It stops the emotional tennis match by turning the ball into a question. Questions force the other side into explanation, where bravado melts into specifics. Specifics reveal motives. Maybe the critique hides envy. Maybe it shields fear of change. Maybe it is just a misunderstanding. Whatever the root, you now see it exposed on the table, without spending your own emotional currency. Neuroscience offers a clear frame for this effect. When someone hears their own idea echoed back, activity shifts from the amygdala toward regions tied to self-evaluation. The brain literally turns inward. That inward turn slows aggressive impulses, allowing reasoning to surface. In practical terms, the room cools, voices drop, postures open. You can almost hear the gears change. Reflection does not mean passive agreement. It means turning raw noise into a structured signal that the speaker's mind must decode for you. While they decode, you observe and plan. Practice with low stakes first. Someone complains about the weather for the third time. Mirror. It sounds like the heat is wearing you down. How is it affecting your day? Notice the slight pause, the search behind their eyes, the softer tone that follows. In that pause, you collect context you never had before. Over time, the habit grows into a smooth rhythm. Mirror, wait, decide. Each round strengthens the circuit that prizes response over reflex. Every reflected beam leaves your own energy bank untouched, conserving focus for moments that truly matter. A mind that masters reflection soon finds conflicts dissolving on impact, not by force, but by inviting opponents to meet themselves. Scarcity shapes value more than brilliance ever will. A diamond is treasured, not because it glitters, but because the earth releases so few of them. The same law operates in human attention. When you give your presence to everyone at every moment, it loses weight. People scroll past your messages the way they skim headlines. Yet one deliberate moment of absence pulls eyes toward the space you leave behind and forces hearts to wonder what occupies it. Withholding is not dismissal. It is a strategic pause that tells the world your focus is a limited resource to be earned, not harvested. Consider your inbox. When you rush to respond within seconds, you signal that your time sits idle. The sender may feel satisfied, yet subconsciously, they rank you below their unanswered messages. Try slowing the cycle. Wait until you can answer with full clarity. A measured reply, hours later, often lands with more gravity than a hurried note delivered at once. The delay hints at a schedule shaped by purpose, not by alerts. It invites curiosity about the projects that filled your day. That curiosity converts into respect. This practice extends beyond digital life. Imagine entering a room and greeting each person with a single steady nod before finding a seat and observing the flow. The short silence gives others permission to approach while also building a subtle frame of importance around your words. When you finally speak, they lean in a little farther. They hold their questions for when you lift your gaze. Scarcity of speech makes every sentence feel chosen, and therefore worth hearing. Machiavelli advised princes to appear accessible, yet remain unpredictable in action. Modern psychology mirrors the idea with its studies on variable reward. A resource that arrives on schedule loses charm. One that appears unexpectedly keeps interest alive. By varying the timing of your replies, the length of your pauses, and the windows when you are visible, you shape the emotional economy around you. The goal is not to play games, but to remind both yourself and others that your attention fuels your mission. If you spend it without intent, you will find it spent for you. Start small. Leave one chat unopened until you finish a real task. Skip one social loop and read a page of insight instead. Notice how self-respect rises with every reclaimed minute. That quiet rise is the first proof that scarcity works as surely as gravity. Look around any room and notice how each person carries an invisible lens that colors what they see and hear. That lens is called a frame. Frames decide what feels normal, what feels possible, and who gets the last word. If your frame is steady, people start to view the whole scene through your outlook, without even noticing the shift. Think of a calm doctor in a busy emergency ward. Alarms blare, yet her slow voice lowers every heartbeat nearby. She did not force anyone to relax. Her frame of collected focus reached them first. Frames are built from posture, tone, and timing. Stand tall without stiffness. Speak a little slower than the crowd. Wait a heartbeat before you answer. These small cues tell the brain of each listener to sync with your rhythm. When someone speaks faster or louder to push their own frame, imagine you are a tree in the wind. The branches sway, but the trunk remains still. That stillness is not passive. It is silent leadership that invites others to match its stability. All humans scan for the strongest frame because it feels safest. This habit explains why crowds follow a calm guide in crisis, and why negotiations bend toward whoever seems least rattled by delay. By holding a steady frame, you turn pressure into an ally. Each new demand simply highlights how unshaken you remain. The contrast grows until others rely on your tone to decide how serious a problem really is. To practice, choose one daily moment of minor stress, maybe a cashier line that moves too slowly, or a group chat spiraling into complaints. Instead of adding to the noise, breathe once and lower your shoulders. Let your face soften. Offer a short, clear comment that names the next useful step. We will sort this in order. Then hold the pause. Watch how tension melts or redirects itself. The effect feels small at first, but each success wires your brain to trust stillness over speed. Remember, a strong frame is not stubborn denial. It is flexible confidence, able to absorb new facts without losing balance. When you listen first and speak after reflection, you show that your calm is earned, not fake. People sense the difference. They start bringing you clearer information, hoping to share in your stability. Over time, this flow of honest insight becomes your greatest advantage, because decisions improve when data arrives without panic. Imagine your mind as a room with a single chair at its center. Whoever sits in that chair decides how you feel, what you say, and where you look next. Most days the seat is open, and any passing emotion slips in. Anger drops by and commands a glare at a coworker. Anxiety wanders through and orders a late-night doom scroll. Yet you can choose to occupy that chair yourself, holding it with the simple tools you have learned so far: the pause, the mirror, the scarce reply, and the steady frame. All point toward the same destination, an inner seat that nobody else can claim. Taking the chair begins with attention to breath. Your lungs are the only part of you that can be controlled both automatically and by choice. When you guide even one inhale, you remind the nervous system who is in charge. The heart rate follows. Blood flow to the frontal cortex steadies. Thoughts line up instead of colliding. In that order, you notice external pushes more clearly. Someone snaps, yet their tone feels like weather beyond the window, not a storm inside the room. Next comes a simple question whispered in thought. What is my aim here? This question positions goals above feelings. If the aim is clarity during a meeting, sarcasm from a colleague becomes background noise, not a trigger. If the aim is care in a family argument, an old accusation lands like wind against brick. Aim filters signal from sound. Without it, every spike in tone feels personal and drags you into reaction. Now combine aim with presence. Presence is not staring or rigid silence. It is a quiet readiness in the muscles of the face and shoulders that signals, I will not leave this moment, even if tension rises. Others read that posture and adjust. People are drawn to steady ground when theirs is shaking. They begin modulating their own voices, mirroring your calm to gain footing. The last layer is selective engagement. You do not attend every debate, correct every rumor, or answer every buzz. You weigh the cost in focus against the return in progress. If the math fails, you let the invitation expire. Silence here is not absence, but allocation of energy toward higher ground. Over time, those around you learn that your mind is a place with a door that opens by choice, not by impulse. Respect follows consistency, because people can measure boundaries through your action. Stand back now and look at the tools you have gathered. A single breath that turns heat into data. A mirror that reflects noise until it quiets itself. Scarcity that teaches others to value your focus. A steady frame that bends pressure into respect. Together they anchor the chair at the center of your mind. A frame that steadies any room you enter. An aim that filters the useful from the needless. Selective engagement that protects your mental budget. None of these require special talent. They require choice in small moments, repeated until the mind forms a new default. That default is calm. Command, lighter yet stronger, silent yet unmistakable, unlike any quick thrill reaction ever gave you. Think of the next tense message that pings your phone, or the next raised voice that greets you in a hallway. Instead of gripping for control, you notice space opening between the event and your decision. In that space, you see how quickly most people surrender their chair to the first emotion that strolls by. You watch the old version of yourself pass in front of you, and you stay seated. The room inside remains yours. Outside, voices may rise or fade, but you respond only when the response serves the long game you chose. Over time, this shift becomes visible to others. Friends start asking how you stay unshaken. Colleagues lean toward you in meetings, hoping to borrow the steadiness they feel across the table. Even rivals rethink their approach, because the buttons they pressed on everyone else no longer light up on you. Authority grows quietly, without force, carried by consistent proof that you are not pushed by the first gust. You decide when to move, and why. The payoff is not domination for its own sake. It is freedom. Freedom to think beyond the current clash. Freedom to build ideas without losing energy to constant fires. Freedom to hold relationships that respect boundaries, because you respect them first. When your mind responds instead of reacts, life stops feeling like a series of emergencies and starts feeling like a terrain you can map and travel with intent. If this journey toward calm power speaks to you, subscribe to the channel. Each video adds another tool to this mental kit, sharpening the practice and deepening the results. Join a growing community that chooses breath over impulse and strategy over noise. Click subscribe now and step into the quiet authority that begins with one deliberate pause.